myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the...
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Friday night for you guys, but it is Thursday night for us. A Fab 4 pre-record has become something we're all becoming quite used to at this moment in time. But fear not, as soon as the season starts, we'll be back to lives on a Friday night. It's simply because the friendly games have all fallen on Fridays, bar one. So it's one of those situations which cannot be avoided. But I'm glad to say that I'm joined by Keith Patterson, Neil Mitchell and Steve Hasty as we look back on the last 7 days at Newcastle United. And I guess, Keith, our road trip is where we'll start. We shared a car with Liam Kennedy down to sunny Rotherham, not so sunny at 5:30 when there was a deluge of rain for about an hour before the kick-off. But the sun got out. It didn't get out on the pitch and certainly didn't shine on Steve Bruce as he was given pelters. But I guess it was the announcement about the cat case, which you know had us going maybe in different directions. Although we ended up at the same venue, the New York Stadium, and I took to Twitter. Obviously, you know my feeling, my gut instinct is something I've lived by for 49 years now, and I just felt it was another damaging thing for this takeover. And I personally, as I discussed last night on the Super Mac and Gibbo show, I personally felt that I can't see this going ahead now. I'm somebody who I always say what I feel, and I just felt that I couldn't mislead or lead fans up a garden path. Once I felt that way, and that's how I feel now. I still feel the same. Can you say anything since we heard that news that's going to cheer me up and potentially change my mind, Keith? I guess.
What I want to make clear is I don't feel comfortable trying to cheer people up. If I have cheered people in the past, then that's just by being honest and saying what I knew and what I was told. Yeah. But one thing I want to stress is because it's a well-versed wording in some of the social media forums in the minute. I'm just a volunteer and I don't get paid for this. And I work for myself and I run NCSL, but there's no remuneration. And I know a lot of people think that you can play that card and get left alone, but some of the abuse and some of the people blaming me if the EPL delay things. And I've got the same mindset as you, Steve, and I was in the car with you. And when we're in the car, I was talking to a competition QC going down. I didn't hide that conversation from you. I was happy to share it with you and Liam because I've always put everything I've heard forward. I've never hid anything. And just to put the facts back down, people are saying, I've named dates. I mean, it's as simple as this. The club expected the arbitration to run in July, and the press covered that heavily. So that was a common factor that the arbitration was expected to run in July. And it was postponed. It was postponed because some of the information that was needed wasn't forthcoming. The club weren't happy that it was postponed. Personally, at the time, I was happy because I felt that it gave the case a chance to go ahead of the arbitration. And still my belief, and still the belief of the competition people and lawyers with competition experience, that it would be beneficial for it to go ahead. The club told me that they expected the CAT case to start end of July, early August. And we're now seeing an arbitration delayed until early 22. And we've now seen a CAT case pushed from July, August expectancy to September. And even when it runs in September, it's going to be over jurisdiction as to whether the club or St James Park Holdings have the right to run that case. There's an optimism amongst the legal side and people with competition experience that the jurisdiction won't win. They feel that the arguments that will come will be defeated. My fear that I got that night, and I passed on to you, and I think it caused you to feel sort of down a bit, was that if the jurisdiction runs in September, and they have a right to appeal, and they successfully appeal, it could push it back again. And my feeling was the same as yours. If that happened, how long will PIF, stay around, and how sick will you think of the efforts being put in by PCP, and the Rubens are obviously there with them. How long will them people wait for this? So for us in the car, we're just straight. We're just sitting amongst ourselves saying that this is getting pushed back and back and back. And when it does get pushed back, there's times, you'll have read this week, if a CAT case runs, and if the jurisdiction fails, the CAT case then tell the various parties, the claimant and the defendants, exactly how long they've got and when they'll produce disclosure, and when the case will be run. And the timescales run by the CAT then and not by the Premier League. So I've always said, by running the CAT, bear in mind I lodged this in October and they took it on in April. It's 6 months of fighting to get it run. But when it ran, I said it's advantageous in the sense that we would take control of time. But typical of the other side, they're doing everything in their powers to delay. It's a common thing to try and say to a competition action that you haven't got a case. It's a normal thing to say, you haven't got a case against us. And these people would say, if they'll come out the house with a stolen telly, they'll say it's not them carrying it. They'll say anything they're not going to turn around and say, yeah, we've been lobbied by 3 of the big 6 to stop the takeover of Newcastle. I'm not going to admit any of that. And that's why I've always felt, and I've read things this week, or I had things put through as where the competition lawyers, and I was with one of them yesterday, and I met Liam, and their take on it is it's ludicrous what some non-competition experienced solicitors are writing. It's ludicrous because a competition action will target anti-competitive behaviour. We've seen evidence that there is anti-competitive behaviour being taken place, and we feel that the Premier League has shown their hand that they're trying everything they can to stop that running. And somebody once said this week that it wouldn't make any impact on the takeover if a CAT succeeded. That's ludicrous. If a CAT was proven that they've been acting discriminatingly against Newcastle, it'll make everything go through. And if it's only some person who doesn't understand that would make that comment. So right now, my fears are quite simple. How long will the buyers wait? And in fairness to you, Steve, you haven't just gone out and said, "Oh, it's off because it's off." Your big doubt is the buyers. That is your big personal doubt.
And that hasn't come from the lips of Amanda Staveley or her husband. That is really my gut instinct.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
I've compared it really to Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. It's that situation where Wile E. Coyote's chasing Roadrunner and then ends up running off the cliff and manages to hold on to the top of the cliff by his fingertips. And that is PIF at the minute. They're hanging on by the fingertips. And, we're waiting for this giant Acme anvil to come and drop on those fingers of his. And he's going to be, dropping down into the ravine, and we're just going to see a puff of smoke. And that's how I felt when I heard that news, because from the high of hearing Amanda when we were down in London giving us a boost to the then to hear arbitration was going to get pushed back, only to hear that was a massive positive because we knew how important it was for the CAT case to run. Yeah. For then to go on another dip where essentially we just hear the news that we're not getting a hearing on the 27th of September. This is just jurisdiction. And and it could potentially, it's not going to, but it could get put back. And I'm thinking that's another 2 months. That's another 2 months that a PCP have to persuade PIF there's still a potential this could go through. And this could go on. And we've seen it with a manager. We've seen it with Rafa Benitez. We've seen Rafa Benitez, who we know was ready to come back to Newcastle United to continue the project under the new owners. And he couldn't wait any longer. And that is my biggest fear. And like I said, I wouldn't be true to the viewers. I wouldn't be true to the people who follow me on social media if I sat at home in front of the mirror and thought this takeover now feels as if it's a million miles away, further away than I feel it has ever been now. And I wouldn't be doing myself justice, and I wouldn't be doing the fans justice who trust things that I say by pretending otherwise. So, look, I can cope with a huge phantom flan in my face if this takeover goes through before the end of the year. And we're all cheering, the fans are cheering. And if I've got to put up with 24 hours or 48 hours of having video or tweets put back in my face to say, well, you said it was off, you know what? bring it on, because I'd rather have that than, you know, in a couple of months' time, be told, well, Steve, you said it, you constantly were saying it was going to go ahead, and you must have known by then it was going to be off. So I'm going with my gut instinct, you know, and that is where I feel at the moment. And having been at Rotherham, you were there. Haven't been at all the friendlies so far, and I'm obviously down at Burton tonight. The situation is quite clear for me. We need to focus on other things at the minute. We need to focus on the football. We need to hope that there's players brought in, and we need to hope that Steve Bruce can pull off some kind of minor miracle this season again, because at this moment in time, it doesn't feel like he can. Watching the team and watching the performances, and the fact that we've lost Joe Willock, and it doesn't look as if we're going to get him back at this moment in time. We're looking at another huge season of discontent, and hoping there's 3 teams worse than us.
I was shocked. I mean, I come from then, and I listened to you and me, you and Liam spoke, and I don't know. There was a lot of frustration in me, and people are saying you're quiet at the moment, because I'm waiting to hear from more the legal people and hear from the club and find out what the plan is to counteract what the EPL are doing. So if the EPL are just trying to push it into long grass over and over, what I wanted to understand more is what we're going to do to stop it getting pushed into long grass. And until I know that, I'm not going to guess or pretend otherwise. But I went to Rotherham and I was there with you, and I was a little bit shocked. I sat with Peter in the ground, and I said to him, I said, do you know, if this had been a quarter final of a cup or a semi-final, and you're trying to beat a League One team, and we looked the worst team by some distance in the first half for me. And actually, you know, I'm not negative, I'm a positive bloke, and I always want to see the good in Newcastle. But the ball, when they were playing the ball up, it was bouncing off our players. And I once played at East level when I was a kid. I played for England under 21s for Durham, and we got murdered in the semi-final down at London of just a better team. And whatever we did when we got the ball, and we tried to play one of our players, it just bounced back off them. You know, every time we knocked the ball at them, it came back. And when I watched Newcastle play, we played against the first division side the other day, and we had quite a decent squad out. And I mean, we looked clueless. We just looked uncreative. Bruce was on the touchline. He looked lost. The fans, second half, I mean, it just turned toxic. He got hammered, like, you know. I mean, some of the songs were just, and I was sat there thinking, Jesus, this is before it kicks off. This is, and I was talking to my pal that was down at Doncaster. He says, "Oh, it was even better down there." So what do you mean? He says, "Oh, there was twice as many there," but there was 1,500 in the crowd out of 4,500, and they had the big end, and all the noise was Newcastle, but some of it was there. I mean, I don't see how you get that squad with that management team through the first 12 games. You start losing games. You lose to West Ham. I mean, they beat Celtic 6-2, and our pal was up there watching it. He said they murdered Celtic. You know, the league's better than Celtic, and you're there. And we didn't have a centre forward in the second half, and we put Hendrick on, and he got a hell of a header. But when you've got Hendrick as centre forward, it speaks volumes about the depth of the squad. Dwight Gale played, and he just didn't look interested at all. And you know, I looked at that team and I thought, Jesus, you know, you look at the 3 that's come up, and with the bookies are tipping the 3 that's come up plus Crystal Palace, Newcastle, and Burnley. And I can't imagine the people Palace have signed. I just, you know, I think we'll struggle. I really do. I think we looked totally average, and I came away and it was just so uninspiring.
Mitch, as always, you know, we're on this roller coaster together, mate. And you've heard what Keith's had to say. You've heard what I've had to say. What do you make of the latest announcements with regards to the takeover?
Well, I'm sat in isolation at the minute. I've turned up with seasonal influenza, so apologies if I'm spluttering the way through tonight. I've had 2 bloody negative COVID tests, so it's not that, thank God. It's given me some time to digest everything and sit and think on it. You know, you've heard me and Steve Hasty talk about our concerns were all being kicked into the long grass. And, you know, we disappeared down the rabbit hole of football finance and football regulation probably about 4 or 5 years ago, again, all takeover related, ironically. And we've seen this time and time again with Bird in particular, and they're exceptionally good at it. And it's gone the way that certainly that was my worry, was where does this go if it gets pushed back and pushed back and pushed back like the way they're very good at doing. This Man City case has sort of now come out recently, but it's always been there if you knew where to dig. They're just very good at hiding it as well. And there's other things that they've been involved in with the Football League that have gone on for years past where it should have done because it suited the league just to drag it out and make it difficult. With regards to Saudi, I've been grateful enough to have talked to a couple of guys who've been good with information with me over here and haven't had the time to have a couple of WhatsApp conversations. It's been useful. The best comment was, remember this, if it's an investment which is part of Vision 2030, it's a long-term thing, and therefore they won't necessarily be put off by 6 months here or 6 months there. However, if they feel that they're having the piss taken out of them, and if they feel that they're going to lose a bit of face out of it, they might just get sick of it one day. That becomes particularly more pressing given the news this week about how much money has been lost from European football in the last set of accounting period that was released. You know, Deloitte has said there's been 3.4 billion disappeared out of football, and that's probably only taken into account 3 months of the COVID period. That's a hell of a lot of money, and that's got to be replaced somewhere. And so the next question is, how good a value proposition do Newcastle United remain at the moment versus other deals that may be coming along in the not too distant future? That's the thing that bugs me, is that the way the finances have dropped out of football, do the Saudis then suddenly find something else that's as good value, and then perhaps the tack may change. You know, if you look at some of the strategic investments, somebody put this to me this week. The investment in Disney was all about getting their hands on a streaming platform that they could put football through, for example. And I think that's are they going to upset the apple cart of this vision that they've got just because they're finding a court delay, when you see what's gone on with them trying to sort out the legal aspects of Sean being legally in Saudi? That's dragged on a bit as well. And so that they're not unaccustomed to things like that. But my biggest concern is that something of better value suddenly pops up. And because that's why we've been targeted to see the value in Newcastle United, even at what I think is overpaying. It certainly is now overpaying, but that's the thing that bugs me more than anything else. I'm not too down about it because my attitude is, well, we've waited this long, what's another couple of months as far as I'm concerned? But I see why everybody's got their concerns, and I certainly see where you're coming from, Stephen, about how you feel about that. It's been, I think we've all suffered a bit of takeover fatigue over the last couple of years. So it doesn't surprise us that, you know, it gets to everybody where you have your own concerns about, well, hang on, how long can somebody reasonably wait here? I don't think it's about how long can somebody wait. My worry is does something of better value pop up in the meantime?
Yeah, good points, mate. Well made, as always. And sorry to hear you're a little bit ropey, mate, but hang with us and we'll get you through the next hour and a half. Steve, good evening, mate. Again, it's just like a roller coaster ride, mate, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is. It's interesting listening to the guys talking about where we've been and where we think we're heading or thought we're heading. Bird and Bird have always, right from the start, when Mitch and I were talking to some of our contacts who have been involved in football for many, many years on the business side. And when they said Bird and Bird, they just went litigate, delay. And from that moment onwards, that's always been at the back of my mind. And I'm seeing that transition happening, and I'm finding it very, very frustrating. Excuse me, I've got a tickly cough. I don't know how I'm going to shake this off, but apologies for that. But yeah, it's it's one of those things. It's like we're in the perfect storm. You know, we've had COVID, we've had delays because of that. We've had leagues continuing. We've had offers and counter offers. We've had everything that seems to have been that could be thrown at us as Newcastle fans. And you've got to say we must be the most patient fans in the world. The way that we've had to deal with the situation over the last 18 months or so. But it's the very fact that right at the start of all this, the Premier League said that they were acting and wanted to act in the best interest of the football club, in the best interest of the fans. And I haven't seen anything from the Premier League that gives any indication of that whatsoever. And that's the sort of disingenuous comment that comes out of an organisation like the EPL. That is a total slap in the face to football fans, a total slap in the face to Newcastle United fans, a total slap in the face to the region, because we have a deal there that could be made, should be made, and they are using every legal loophole in the book to just delay.
Right.
The frustration that I've seen, that I've felt over the last, certainly over the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks, has just it's just getting to the point where you just want to wrap the whole thing, you know. And you don't really want to, but it's just the gut feeling that you get. And I can understand exactly where you're coming from with your comments, Steve, because it does get to you eventually, you know. And it's that, you know, grinding down that the EPL seem to be playing as a game, and it's wrong. It's totally wrong, Steve. You look at what's happened and what was announced on Tuesday, and if anyone's looked at the Competition Appeal Tribunal rules and this Rule 34 about jurisdiction. And there's now certain timescales that we have to go through. So regardless of what is happening, you know, somebody gets 14 days, which means that the other party then gets 28 days in which they can come back. Certain documents have got to be lodged at certain times. The motions can be delayed. There can be an extra 14 days tagged on here and there and everywhere. And quite frankly, it's just a legal minefield now. The only people that are winning are the legal eagles in this, you know, the lawyers, the burden birds who must be milking the Premier League for millions of pounds, you know. And that's not the Premier League's money, that's the club's money. You know, that is the other 19 clubs in the Premier League who are all paying for this. And I'm surprised, quite frankly, that if you disregard the top 6, that the other 14 clubs, including Newcastle United, aren't coming together and going, what the hell is going on? That is where the pressure should be coming to bear. What is going on? Why is a case costing all of us money? Why are the Premier League spending? Why is our executive board spending all this money on this case? Tell us what it's all about and come out and let the public know as well. And if there are issues still regarding the TV rights and piracy, tell us. You know, let the public know what the issues are, and then it's in the court of public opinion on how the thing progresses. And if nothing else, it gives the likes of us four and all the Newcastle fans out there an idea of what the problem really is. And then we can put that problem to bed and we can understand what the problem is. And we can, if necessary, quite happily allow the system to follow through and the process to follow through in a timely manner till we get a result. And that, at the end of the day, if the result goes against us, it goes against us, but we don't even know what the case is about. And it's so frustrating, Steve.
Those 13 clubs, you know, all they've got to do now is put a vote through to say, we don't want to spend any more of our share. And what we want to do is this arbitration is going to cost millions. And the whole thing with Newcastle is going to cost millions. So if it was one of us seeking investment, we'd want it to be in the open. So the other 13 clubs could vote for a public arbitration. They could vote for that whole arbitration to be expedited quicker and to come out and be done transparently, and it would save all the money. But if you listen to various people, like as Henry Winter's stuff, he just said that there's people in those 13 are against the Saudi investment themselves as well.
Yeah.
But
I think the other thing, Keith, that we've always heard from people really high up, that this appeal tribunal case is the equivalent in ownership terms of a Bosman. This is the Bosman case. This is how big this decision is, and we'd all know what Bosman did in terms of transfers.
yeah,
and that is, I think, that is the fear, because it drives the coach and horses potentially through the ownership models. It drives coach and horses through the rule book of the Premier League, and that's their fear, and that's what they're fighting. They're fighting to safeguard their own rule book, and they don't realise that things move on, situations move on, circumstances change, and I tell you what, if they can't come up with a settlement and an agreement between both parties, and it can't be sorted that way, then I think that's where we are heading. I think if this competition case carries on and it sees itself through to its natural end, then we will be looking at the equivalent of a Bosman and a coach moving through the whole manner in which football competitions are run, the whole manner in which ownership models are allowed or not allowed, because you can't have a rule book in the manner that the rule book is with the Premier League that has so many catch-alls within the rules. It's like it reminds me of this the one that they always throw at a player or as a manager. If a manager speaks out, you're bringing the game into disrepute. It's that sort of final, we can do you for this, we can do you for that, but we'll just do you on the catch-all. You're bringing the game into disrepute. What does that mean? What does it mean if you're bringing the game into dispute? Does that mean, are you bringing it into dispute because you were swearing? Are you bringing it into dispute because you put somebody's career in jeopardy? Are you bringing the game into dispute because you gambled? It doesn't, they have this ridiculous state of affairs that just seems to be a way of a rule like that can just take money out of the pockets of members, of players, of officials, of managers, at will, and the whole football system is rotten to the core now, quite frankly.
It is rotten to the core. I'll tell you, I saw something this week where the Chronicle did something that said cut case delayed. It was a headline, and somebody said to us, it was a lawyer said to us, he says, you know what, Keith, he says, everybody in North East reading the Chronicle now knows what a cut case is, but before you came along and took a competition action at the Premier League, they didn't know what that was. And I sat down with the club and with the lawyers they were employing and the QCs and said the only way you'll ever get disclosure and find out what these people are up to with the cartel. I told about the cartel in a letter to Masters in August last year. The only way you'll ever do it is with a competition action. And it took the club from October till April to decide to do that. And you now saying that April date of submission is now September for jurisdiction and thereafter to hear the case. But you were in the car, Steve, the other day, and you heard on hands-free, Robert said to me, he said, if they'd listened to you and done this in October, you'd have had different owners now.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I categorically remember him saying that. Yeah,
and he said, he says, I told them that myself. He came to the meeting with us, and he said that if you run this case, and got to bear in mind, I am just a fan, just a football fan from Durham, and I haven't got the evidence that the club will have because I wasn't getting my application messed around with last March and April. And the buyers and certainly the sellers will have much more. If you remember when Amanda came out and she said, it's the big six, or so the clubs that don't want this takeover to go through. And she asked the fans to stand up and speak. And that's what we did. But she didn't say that on a whim. She did that because she'd experienced the pushback that was going on in the Premier League. Now, there is evidence of that. And people who think a cat case won't make any impact, you should judge as how hard the EPL are trying to stop the cat case going through. But in the same way that the Chronicle could just put a headline saying cat case delayed and everybody in Newcastle now knows what a cat case is. That there, in its sense, was my job done, because I was one fan. I haven't got the money that Mike Ashley's got. I haven't got the money that PIF's got. I'm just a fan. So when I got the cat case into Ashley's domain, and when he said, look, we're going to run this case, then I become more redundant. You know, I don't make the decisions. I don't say we're going to speed the arbitration up, we're going to slow the cat down. All I say as a fan is press the button on the cat, because that's what we're winning for you. But then I'm just another fan. You know, I might be the one fan that the club say that they've spoken to, and the one fan they say they've trusted through a period. So I've had a great dialogue with the club just by saying to them, you know, we need to work together to get this to happen. But I don't make the decisions. You know, I don't delay like the EPL. The lads on here just told you chapter and verse that the burden of the masses of procrastination. What I am is just somebody that got that into a court. And once it went into the court, it could, and Robert will tell you, it could easily have been done by getting a class action done, half a dozen people. So someone like Steve, you turn around and you say, who's got enough skin in the game? If Steve Wraith said, most of my earnings come from Newcastle United, in the sense that I do podcasts about them, I do books about them, I'm involved with them. Mickey Edmondson, who runs 2 shops and does a pre-match before the matches in Beyond Bar, probably 95% of his earnings will be impacted as to whether this case is, you know, whether PIF buy the club. Mickey's business will double if PIF do a takeover. So if you get people there, because people say, oh, they don't have enough loss to run a case, and that wasn't true. And what Robert wanted to do was run a class action with half a dozen people. But people like Steve, people like Mick, even any season ticket holder would have skin in the game. So there was always a way to do it. But you know, fans chose. I mean, in the old days, fans chose that it wasn't something the fans wanted to do. And I went on my own to do it. And then since then, the clubs took it on. But the minute the club take it on, whilst it's good news for me, because then I don't lose any more money, it's not good in terms of control, because where I've spent some years of my life running a competition action, and I know the impact, and I know what questions you can ask. And if you ask a simple question to the Premier League and say, we want to see any documents from the Big Six that mentions Newcastle United, we want to see any document that mentions the word consortium and the word takeover, you're going to get some documents. And if you ask the right questions, you're going to see the build-up of the ASL. You're going to see that cartel being grown. You're going to see the collusion. And that's why the EPL are trying to do it. But don't blame me, because I tried to fight this case and run it, and the club took it on. And the minute they took it on, it's now the club making the decisions as to what comes first, whether they, you know, at some stage last week, we all thought the arbitration was running in July, and the club agreed and did a joint statement to let it go to early 22. And it's not Steve Hasty making the decisions no more. It's not Keith Patterson. It's Newcastle United. And I think there's some frustration there that I empathise with for people like Medad and Amanda and the Rubens. They must be thinking, why have the club done a joint statement with the Premier League if it's been delayed? You know, because they eagerly want this case to run, and they eagerly were looking forward to a July arbitration. But yeah, everything's getting pushed back. And in the same way Steve Wraith rightly says, none of us on here, not one of us would ever lie. We'd always, you know, Steve will tell you, when I was in the car with him and Liam, I put the call on hands free, so you could absolutely hear what I was getting told, and you could appreciate the messages I was getting. But we're just fans at the end of the day. You know, we fans, not earning a living, unpaid, volunteers, and we're just trying our best for Newcastle for a takeover. And we all, at the minute, feel, I think all 4 of us in here, Mitch has put a great point over about PIF and about when you've got a plan that's, you know, that's running for 10 years, how a few months won't change it. But I think we're all on here nervous of how much the procrastination model of the EPL is affecting this takeover.
Yeah. I was going to say, somebody said to me last week, you've spent that much time talking, Steve, about the cat. Are you going to get Noel Fitzpatrick, the super vet, on the show as well? And you know what? It's beginning to feel like that when you know to come and bloody resurrect this whole bloody situation, man.
Yeah, I mean, Mitch, I was going to say, like, just looking at the situation that we find ourselves in, I've also said with Gibbo and Supermac last night that the only person that doesn't really lose in this situation is Mike Ashley once again, because ultimately he's he's got this money, this down payment from the prospective buyers, non-returnable. He can fight the legal action using that money. He's had a full season in the Premier League without any fans, which sounds bad, but a lot of people left the season ticket money in. He hasn't had to pay for any police or anything, for a match day. Newcastle finished in a comfortable league position, which of course meant more money coming in, and ultimately, he says he wants to sell the club, and he's got a willing buyer. He can't do it, but ultimately, if this legal action is the only thing that comes off for Mike Ashley, and he could prospectively win it, but then not get his takeover, he hasn't lost any money here, and again, he hasn't had to spend any money because there isn't any activity in the transfer market. And Steve Bruce, by his own admission, after the match at Rotherham, said when asked how much he had to spend, he went, "Not very much."
But and this is where some people are saying Ashley's getting an easy ride at the minute, and I don't think he is. We haven't taken the focus off the fact that he needs to now look at how do I protect my investment to get the maximum amount of what I want. Yes, he's likely to get compensation out of one of the actions, but that compensation isn't the full amount of the sale. It's the difference about how much he eventually sells it for versus what the price that was agreed. That might actually help buyer or potential buyers in certain ways as well. So, I don't think anybody's gone soft on Mike Ashley, and I think if you want to see how not soft on Mike Ashley it is, let's see what happens when crowds are back in St James's Park. Bruce is getting it at the minute because he's effectively the face of Mike Ashley. He's the man that's been appointed who's prepared to put up with the bullshit and really treat us like idiots, and he has done for the best part of 2 seasons. Treat the fan base like we're stupid, that we cannot see what's happening in front of our eyes. However, it's very, very difficult to square that circle, to turn around and say, yeah, we want to push this takeover through and want to work every way we can, but then standing in with bedsheets chanting, "You fat county bastard, get out of our club," doesn't help that either. It's a very difficult situation for the fan base to be in as a whole. There's still people out there claiming Ashley's doing a great job and has done a great job. That will baffle me to my dying day. Again, it comes back to, and these are facts, 0 money in over a 10-year period and 7 million capex. That's it. So you want to see how COVID has hit us? We've lost our funds because he doesn't put any in himself and hasn't done it for 10 years. And so, yes, in some respects, Ashley wins. But if he wants to protect his investment, he's got to do something to help the situation. That way, the only club now that hasn't signed anybody.
It's not going to last. From Rotherham, he's getting pelters, and he's getting pelters at Doncaster. He'll get pelters. Yeah. He's going to get. I'm sure the way if you saw underneath the stand, there's a load of young'uns singing, and they were having like a great time. They were just bouncing around, having a good time. And the next thing is this like squad came in with like livery on the back, like I don't know, crowd control banners on them, and they were radioing in, and they wanted to break this crowd in Newcastle. And all they were doing was just singing. They were just singing their hearts out. And this was underneath the ground, the stadium, before I went out on to the terraces. And they were just singing and singing and singing. But you could see they were up for it, for an away game. And I thought, they said, Doncaster was even bigger. And then apparently Burton tomorrow night's going to be again. And when you see Steve Bruce stood on the touchline, he looked a solitary figure. He looked disillusioned. And
all the images I've seen, Keith, he looks very distant.
Yeah.
Distant from the players, distant from the staff.
And when the players are behind him sometimes, and he's looking the other direction. There's no, what Graham Jones does, he puts his arms out people. And that might be Steve Bruce's style, but the point is, I'm not here to shoot at Steve Bruce before a ball's kicked in the league game. what I mean to say is that we've got West Ham up first. They finished the season very, very well, and their counter-attack was incredible last year. I was talking to somebody who was at the Celtic game. They said they murdered them. Said the 6-2 could have been 10-2. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I saw Newcastle absolutely struggle and be a total second back. They had a spell of 5 minutes before half time. And apart from that, honestly, the football wasn't pretty. And so I don't see those pelters stopping, because fans are disillusioned. They feel wronged by the Premier League, but they also feel wronged by the club. So they're going to take it out of Bruce, and they're going to make it an untenable situation. You know, I'll say to you, if we've got 3 points after 6 games, what's going to happen?
Well, Bruce has made it specialty of trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes, using words, progress, and you're like, well, where's the progress? Making things up, like making up a 3-game winning streak. I mean, apart from the games we drew and lost in between those games, yeah, that's fine. It really is quite a weird way of going on, almost belligerent to the point of knucklehead. And to see some of the people who support him have proper meltdowns 3 weeks before the season goes on social media, and you're like, okay, then everybody knows there's a big problem. But the biggest problem is he's the mouthpiece for a rudderless ship that gets no guidance from above. Yeah. And therefore he's also the mouthpiece for Mike Ashley. So everything gets loaded on him. Everything. Yeah. And some people would say, well, you know what? That was the poison in the chalice when you took it to drink from. And maybe he should have done, or should have thought twice about it, or maybe he did and still did it anyway, because, at the end of the day, let's give him credit. He's a Geordie, allegedly, and that's a job that we'd all take. You wouldn't even think about it, though. You wouldn't. It's tough.
Malcolm Paul said, "Was the night he's away, King? You've been a bit harsh." He says, "You've had 3 friendlies. You've got 4 points." And that's a very witty thing for a Sunderland lad to say to us. But you were there, Steve. What do you think? Like, coming from Rotherham in the car, and what were you thinking going up the road about what
it's going to be a long, hard season. I mean, I'll put it out on Twitter tonight. Describe how you feel about Newcastle United in a GIF at the minute, and there's just for a bit of humour. And there's a lot of funny GIFs out there, but it's not a laughing matter. It's an absolute shit show at the minute. There's no other way to describe it, and it's of Mike Ashley's doing, really. Regardless of whether the fact that he wants to sell the football club and he's got a buyer and it's not his fault he can't sell it. He has to protect the investment. He's got to put some money in and essentially, give Steve Bruce a chance to, keep this club in the Premier League. And that's where we're at. Forget the FA Cup, forget the League Cup. We've got to maintain our position in the top flight again. And when you see the likes of those teams that have been promoted spending money and bringing players in, okay, we know that doesn't guarantee that they are going to remain in the Premier League. But it's just deflating to see all of our potential transfer targets leave and go to other clubs. I mean, we had Lee Clark on the show about 5 or 6 weeks ago saying how good Aya would be. It would be a great signing. He's a good player on the pitch. He's a good player off the pitch. It was a pittance that they were asking for him. But clearly, having heard Steve Bruce's press conference and reading the subsequent press articles after Rotherham, it's not even something that he's looking at, a centre-half. He's happy in that area. Midfield is the focus. They want a midfielder. They do want Willock, but the stuff, the murmurings coming out of Rotherham were that we can't wait forever. And that means that, if we can't get Willock, who are we going to end up with? We're being linked for, at the time of recording this with a defender on loan from Manchester United who, Pete Davey, who we met down at Rotherham, rates him highly. He mentioned a few weeks ago that potentially that would be a good signing for Newcastle. So strange times. And I think the other thing, and again, I discussed this with Gibbo and Malcolm on last night's show, but I'm worried that Steve Bruce seems to think we're all right up front, because ultimately
I agree.
Scoring goals is what wins you games. Scoring goals is what kept us up last season. Joe Willock scored plenty of them. You know what I mean? And he seems to think that we have 5 centre forwards. Now, I asked this question to Malcolm last night, and he could only name 2, Callum Wilson and Dwight Gale. I found it bizarre that he claims that Joe Linton, Alan St. Maximin and Almiron are all centre forwards. He thinks we've got 5 centre forwards. We're all right in that position. How many do you need? I mean, come on. You know, I find that bizarre. Mitch, I mean, we've watched football for years. Alan St. Maximin and Almiron centre forwards.
No, neither's Joe Linton.
Joe Linton's not either.
So, you know, and is he going to be talking about false 9s, false 10s, and false 11s next? You know, he's just making it up as he goes along yet again. We have got 2, what you would describe, centre forwards in our squad. Callum Wilson, Dwight Gale. We've got nothing beyond that. And I hesitate at Dwight Gale in the Premier League.
He had a stinker the other night, like absolute stinker. Anybody thinks
and
that?
So it's quite obvious if we lose Callum Wilson for any period of the season, we're screwed.
We're knackered.
We can't go into this season with them talking about having 4 goalkeepers and sacrificing an outfield player in the squad just because of the circumstances with injury. If you're Gillespie, how does that make you feel? It must make you feel like shit. That's great man management, that. And so you add that to him thinking that we've got 5 strikers when we've got 2. I wonder what goes on in his mind, other than what his next order from the kebab van is.
I think we've got 1.
I mean,
one striker. We've only got 1 striker. It's Premier League.
No, it's Premier League, yes, Keith.
Yeah. Well, that's the league we played in. We've got 1 striker. We have no creativity, and we've got a problem in goal. It's honestly, it's frightening.
What do you think? What do you think, Steve? I mean, you know, are we wrong? You know, are these players potentially going to be playing up front? Are we going to have Jeff Hendrick as a centre forward because he scored against Rotherham the other night?
In Bruce's mind, he could come out the weekend and say we've got 6 centre forwards, couldn't he? Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Why did Dwight Gale get a new contract? Dwight Gale got a new contract because he's got a value to somebody in the lower league, in the EFL, in the Championship, because they like a Fulham or somebody like that might not get off to the start they want, or a West Brom might not get up the start they want. So they'll come in and try and nab him. They'll try and get him on loan. So he was there simply to protect and give him a value. That's the only reason he's there. Bruce doesn't rate him because Bruce didn't play him at all last season. You know, and even when he did play him, like, for example, when he brought him on against West Brom and he stuck him out on the wing, you know, or the lad went out on the wing because the lad couldn't be bothered. That was the way, because if you remember back to that game, that was one of the worst games that we had to witness on a 2 o'clock on a Sunday, that entire season. And the kid just stuck out on the wing, never, ever moved into the box. He's supposed to be a fox in the box. He's gone. He's gone completely. Whether Bruce has taken it out of him or whether his mindset and his attitude or whatever it is. But that Gale for a start. Then you've got, like you say, you've got somebody like Joe Linton. Well, he scored a couple of goals towards the end of the season. But he's not a centre-forward. No. Almiron, am I allowed to say that he flatters to deceive? Would that be an understatement or an overstatement? I'm not too sure where that one fits in. And then you look at Joe Linton, to San Maximum. Apparently he's got COVID again. You know, if it's not a hamstring injury or a back injury or a calf injury, it's COVID. You know, it's just like, you know, again, in the head. You know, we're just. I just don't understand. Then you look at the midfield. Take Willock out of the midfield. Where are the goals coming from the midfield? Look at the back 4 or the back 5. Where's the goals coming from any of those players? Probably the only one that you could see having an opportunity to score a goal, which would probably come from a set piece if he's allowed to take a free kick, would be Murphy. But I would say that would be a 1 in 10 chance, judging by some of the free kicks he did take. And it just rolls through. It just rolls through. And you know what? This isn't new. I mean, we've had it all the way through Bruce's tenure. We had it through McLaren's tenure. We've had it through Pardew's tenure. Somebody said to me the other day about the way that the club has changed or hasn't changed. And I said, you know what? I could pick up a tweet, or I could pick up a Facebook article and I could read it, and it could be written by a supporter today, and it could be the date potentially in my head could be 2011, 2013, 2014, 2015. It's just a continual roller coaster of bad management, bad decision making in the boardroom, or lack of any decision made in the boardroom, and contempt for the supporters. This contempt for supporters has been going on for years and years and will continue to go on. We're not even second-class citizens when it comes to that football club. We're not even third-class citizens. You know, we're not even refugees to that football club anymore. You know, we are the lowest of the low. We are the last thing in Mike Ashley's mindset. We're the last thing in the mindset of anybody at that football club when it comes to listening and doing things on behalf of supporters. And it's enough is enough, quite frankly. I'm just so disillusioned. And I know that there are one or two decent people up there. Neil and I have said it time and time again. There's some really decent people up there. But I could hold a conversation. I could ring one in particular up and I could hold a conversation with them. And again, it would be exactly the same answers as I was getting in 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. Exactly the same ones. And then the same ones as I was picking up last season and in the close season when I've had those conversations. It's exactly the same. And nothing changes because nothing goes from that point there up over in that football club. It's just a massive echo chamber. Nothing sinks in. Nothing sinks in that boardroom. Nothing sinks in with Mike Ashley. Nothing sinks in with Justin Barnes. They just treat me with contempt. We are superfluous as supporters. Supporters are superfluous to Newcastle United at this moment in time, and have been virtually throughout that reign because of the contempt that we're being treated.
Yeah, you can hear everybody watching the attitude of all of us. We're all a bit down, despondent. But as Keith rightly said, there may still be some more twists and turns. We'll just have to wait and see. It's it's taken on more or less the first hour of the programme, but I think it's been right to talk about it in that extent. And let's just see where we are when it comes to the end of September. But I personally feel, certainly as the person who runs the channel and does 7 shows a week, that really it is time to maybe just concentrate on the football. Pray to God that Mike Ashley gives Steve Bruce and co some money, or gives them some new players to play with. However it works, however it turns out, we've just got to hope that there is some kind of investment, whether it's long-term loan for the season or whatever. Just got to hope that we get it, because at the moment, the way things look, it looks bleak. And St James's Park is not going to be a pleasant place to be, not only for us as fans, but also for Steve Bruce, because whether it's 40,000 or 50,000 supporters, Keith, in that cauldron, in that stand, in that stadium, this season, if we get off to a bad start, it's not going to be pretty, is it?
No, it's not. And I'll get shut down when I say this, but it must be hard for Bruce, because everybody knows their own capabilities. Everybody knows. You all know what you're capable of doing yourself, and he looks like a man lost. And to go out in pre-season friendlies and get pelters, and you know, this is in front of 4,500. Well, multiply that tenfold, put 45,000 on there, and have an atmosphere that only St James Park can create, and have that belt in your ears, and he's going to get slaughtered. And the fear for me is, when I watch that football team, is that there's not enough importance put on strike power and injuries to, you know, I mean, Wilson and St Maxim got injured at real critical times last year. And if you cast your mind back, if Graham Jones hadn't come in, and if they hadn't got back as quick as they did, we were down. So if we're going to start up again, you know, like when that, what I was told was, as long as we stay up, this will go through. And to think we're going back into a new season with less than we had last year. If Willock doesn't come, we're going to go into the season with less, not more. And same manager. You've just said it'll be hard for fans going into the ground. It'll be hard for Steve Bruce. It'll be hard for the players. It'll be hard for the Newcastle players.
You've got to remember as well, Keith, Bruce is getting pelters for what's gone on in the past.
Yeah.
Come the first game of the season, or the second or the third game of the season, it's not going to be historical pelters that he's going to get. It's going to be facts.
Yeah.
What's going to be based on what we are witnessing while he's in the dugout. He's had the easiest of rides. I mean, people like Jamie O'Hara coming out on Talk Sport and saying, "Oh, Bruce has done a good job this, Bruce has done a good job that," because the usual sort of, you know, guff. But I tell you what, the poisonous, venomous St James's Park is one of the worst places to be. We know what we're watching. We know what we're witnessing. We know what we've seen in the past. But a lot of people will turn up on the first game of the season, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Pre-season friendlies, let's see where it goes. But I tell you what, 3-4 games in, and you're not getting the results. Bruce has seen nothing in this pre-season compared to what he's going to witness once the season is well underway. I can tell you that.
I'm more fearful, Steve, that if we go to the Norwich game, right, and we get turned over of Norwich, I think it'll start then. I honestly think
it may well. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. What I heard at Rotherham, and I don't know. You going to Burton tonight, Steve? What you're expecting at Burton? Same again?
Same again. I mean, it's been different at each of the friendlies. York was obviously different because, you know, there was only a scattering of us there, you know, because the tickets went on sale before the restrictions lifted. So, you know, there was probably about 20 of us at York amongst a 2,000 crowd. Doncaster was a Friday night. It's a close one, and 3,300 made the trip. Obviously, Rotherham the other night were just short of hitting our capacity, you know, our allocation. I think 1,488 was the total of 1,600 tickets that we had available who were there. I'm not expecting, you know, again, a sellout tomorrow night anyway. But the atmosphere is obviously nothing at York. Doncaster was mental. And it was subdued against Rotherham. At midweek, people don't drink as much. They've got work the next day. But the songs that were generated by the crowd, there was 4 songs of which were anti-Steve Bruce. And that was where we're at. I expect, again, you know, the same again tomorrow, really, because people are sick. There was a little bit of get out of our club aimed at Mike Ashley. As we know, the 4 Steve Bruce songs. The only time we had any semblance of a positive atmosphere was when Hendrick scored the equaliser. And then, you know, the fans were on side with the team again. I turned to the guy who I was sitting next to and said, bit fickle, aren't we? You know, football fans in general, we're a bit fickle. But yeah, I see more of the same. And I think we will see similar scenes to Sam Allardyce. When Sam Allardyce was at the club, you know, you don't know what you're doing and stuff like that. And just people turning their attention towards Steve Bruce. And then, you know, Mike Ashley's going to have a decision to make. If the results start going against us, he might have to decide, actually, you know, this guy's got to go, you know. We're preempting stuff, we're predicting stuff, but we can see it with our own eyes. Newcastle United should have had three comprehensive wins in their opening 3 friendlies. The big test should be Norwich City at home. And I agree, it could be embarrassing on the 7th of August. If Norwich come to town and completely outplay us in our friendly before the game. And I think the biggest worry for me, Keith, is it looks it looks as if Bruce is probably going to go with his 3-5-2 formation, the one that served him so well under Graham Jones' arrival at the club. But he seems to be playing Hayden, Richie, in positions which I hope I don't see them in at all this season. You know, playing them at full-back, centre-half. I just find it bizarre that he's even contemplating that now when, you know, you should surely be looking towards playing your strongest team. I'm expecting against Burton that we have more or less our starting 11 out, but I don't know. And the goalkeeping situation's a concern as well. He's talking about having, you know, he's going to have 4 goalkeepers named in his 25-man squad because of this ongoing situation with Darlow potentially still with COVID, Dubravka injured, Woodman, who we know has had issues with Bruce in the past, might not be as keen to stay. You've got Gillespie, who, look, he's a Newcastle fan who's just loving the fact that he's at the club getting paid to watch the match every week. But I don't expect him to be troubling the first 11 this season. But even that's bad news, you know. We're taking up one position in the squad by having to put 4 goalkeepers in. It's a mess. And together with what we were discussing before about Steve Bruce having, in his mind, we've got 5 centre forwards when, in fact, we've only got 1 because Callum Wilson's the only man who can score goals out of the 5 that he's named. I really, really am concerned. This is the most concerned I've been going into a season. Normally, there's a shred of hope, but at the moment, I am really fearful for this season, lads.
I am too, and I just think that when you talk about the strikers and that, we were talking on a show, maybe 2 shows back, saying, you know, about who we'd buy to support Callum Wilson. And I said I would like to buy a younger foreigner, you know, like bring somebody in, an unheard 4 or 5 million, you know, that kind of person who could be happy to sit on the bench, but it was a powerhouse, you know. So there's a lot of potential strikers out there. You can go and take a chance on somebody. And we talked about other players, you know, people that's coming up that could be got on free transfers, but it sounds like it's going to be free transfers. You know, the rumours are that it's the kid from Man United centre half that Willock will end up saying no, and then we'll end up looking at the likes of Ross Barkley and other people, you know, to get a second loan signing in. And it sounds like it's 2 loan signings plus free transfers plus $1 million or 2 here and there, you know, like if anything. But with the only club who haven't signed anybody, so there might be nobody. They might just be going out with a bare minimum and do the best of that. But what I watched today night, they couldn't get the ball forward. And you talk about decent class of players. We've got some good players. We're knocking balls to each other. It was bouncing off them. It was bouncing off and going backwards. And we got overrun. You know, I looked at Peter. I says, how bad is this? You know, it was. I think so. And when I, you know, my pal's been to all 3 friendlies, and he was a bit more hopeful when he went to Doncaster. He says it started well, but he just said we're miles away. So I pray that something happens. I pray that there's a signing coming in that can calm us down. But to me, if somebody said to me, I'm going to make a signing tomorrow, it wouldn't be a goalie or a centre half. It'd be a centre forward. You know, it'd be somebody that can get goals now. Somebody that can play with Wilson, and somebody that can take that line if Wilson gets injured. You know, you'll not get through a season next year on Callum Wilson remaining fit for the full duration.
No, definitely not. Big shout out to our sponsors, Spider VPN. Google Spider VPN. They come up at the top of the search list, and you can get your computer protected, all your passwords, your photographs, anything you have, your private information protected by Spider VPN. They are the boys to trust. Google them today. Thank you for your ongoing sponsorship, lads. And thank you to skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. website, www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay as you go. Waste Collection, another one of our main sponsors. And also thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. Let's hope John is out of hospital. He was on the mend last night and hoping to get home to recuperate from that blasted COVID. But good luck, John. Hope you are a little bit fitter and a little bit weller, mate. But thank you for your ongoing support. And to John at Jab Signature as well, who knocks up our flyers. Big shout out to him. If you're a first-time visitor to the channel, then subscribe. Hit the Newcastle Legends logo. Hit the thumb up to like the video. Click share to your social media. Drop into the comments to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. Normally, you can put a question on the screen, but this is pre-recorded tonight. You will not be able to do that, but you can still have a chat with the fans in the chat. We're on Spotify and iTunes and Podbean and all your other podcast providers. So if you missed the show, you can catch up when you're out having a walk with your dog. We've also got a lovely website, NUFCmatters.com, which has been provided by QTech. Lots of T-shirts available on there, including our very popular cult T-shirt. Get yourself on at NUFCmatters.com to purchase your T-shirts now. And obviously, we also have promoted the food bank all the way through the lockdown period, the COVID period. We will continue to do so. And the matchday bucket is operational tonight for tonight's friendly against Burton. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. Simply pop onto that website and make a virtual donation into the matchday bucket. And you will be available. You will get entered into the raffle to win this one-off watch, and the winner of the watch will be announced very soon, Friday the 6th of August at the 24-hour charity pool night, hosted by QTech and hopefully John, if he can get himself off his sick bed. So that is the 6th of August. All funds raised that night for the food bank. Couple of talk-ins coming up as well, which I keep promoting. I've got an evening at the Farmhouse Kitchen with Supermac. Tickets are selling very well for that, almost sold out. August the 19th, 7 o'clock, tickets are tenner. Q&A with me and Supermac. Get yourself along. It will be a cracking night. Just find the details for Farmhouse Kitchen on their Facebook or on their Twitter account and get yourself along. It'd be nice to meet you all and hear what Malcolm's got to say about the forthcoming season. We've also got a talking coming up again for the food bank at Bobix, which is formerly the Punch Bowl in Newcastle. It's a cracking little venue, and myself and Liam Kennedy will be there. We will be talking Newcastle United, and that is on the 5th of August. Tickets are tenner, so get in touch with Bobix, and you can get your tickets from their website, www.bobix.com. That is the 5th of August in aid of the food bank, United Reality, #football fantasy. Looking forward to that. Liam is a little bit nervous, I think, from his because it's his first one, but I've told him there's nothing to be scared of. He'll have a good night. Big shout out to you as well, the viewers. I do put this up every week on every month, on social media, but the figures do blow us away. I get an email every month just explaining how many we've had. With over 200 new subscribers, which is great. 3.1 million views. Blows me away every time I see that, because it just means that the hard work and effort that we put in, and we're volunteers, I think I should say. But it's nice to be able to put that out there and say that the hard work that we put in is rewarded by the viewing figures. And that's down to you guys and girls. Thank you very much for giving us your support. It never gets taken for granted. And those figures speak for themselves. So thank you very much for making us the number one Newcastle United podcast in the Northeast and very far afield. And the reason probably is a lot of it's down to this show, some of the stuff that we have, and it seems a perfect opportunity to look at the lookalikes. Some absolute belters as always. Keep them coming in. Please send them to me, Keith. Send them to Steve Hasty. Send them to Mitch on Twitter. Just inbox us if you've got one of the lads' numbers. Ping it to them as well. I just want to say a hi to Alistair. I did promise him that I would give him a shout out. I did give him a shout out on last night's show. Me, Keith, and Holly bumped into him at the Rotherham game the other night. Him and his two daughters. He's a big fan of the show, watches every night. So there you go, mate. Thanks for popping over and saying hello and giving us your very kind words, mate. Absolute pleasure to meet you. Okay, the lookalikes. Fantastic week. Some people obviously like the Fab Four. So we had this one from Gaz. Fab Four, a fine looking bunch, and superimposed our faces basically onto the Beatles. And I'm Paul McCartney there. Keith is Ringo. Mitch is John Lennon, and Steve Hasty's George. Pretty good. I like that. These apps are very, very clever. Liam Kennedy came in for a bit of stick this week from Tom Lynch.
Yeah,
Two lookalike, Liam Kennedy and Jerry Sinclair from Phoenix Nights as Jerry. That's just down to his rather red look when he basically was late for coming to do the show, and he ended up looking a bit red-faced. So good spot that, Tom. We had this one from Dublin Toon lookalike, Steve Bruce, and that is our it's a Sky commentator, isn't it? I think that's who that is. I can't remember the guy's name.
Guy Mowbray or somebody like that.
Yeah, Guy Mowbray, that's who it is. Exactly.
Yeah,
so, very good. I can see where you're coming on with that. And this one was from Andrew Wood, Odd Bod from Carry On Screaming, and Joe Linton. Similar hairline. I quite like this one from Noel. He said, Tune lookalike, me and his son.
Poor Ben's got to be bald like at that age, can he?
Noel, I can see where you were coming from with that, and he's definitely got the look. I think he's definitely got the look. Albert, he went on a bit of a wild one this week again, but he comes up with this. I'm on a looking likey fire, he says. Stacey Solomon and Bianca Walkden, from who was the Taekwondo girl this week in the Olympics.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was good. This one was from Gary. Again, Joe Linton coming in for a bit stick. He says, Big Joe's definitely got a fanboy in Reece James. I'm not sure about that one. What do you think, guys? Possibly the teeth and that. Yeah, there's a little likeness there. This one from Al. Who's the woman?
Steve Hasty.
Steve Hasty, brilliant. Again, he comes up with this one. Hasty free lookalike this week, but he changed his mind. He said Catherine Tate and Angela Rayner.
I can see that one. Yeah,
that's pretty good. Now this one was a selection from Chris Bevan.
Love this.
This is from Chris Bevan. So he's gone for
right.
He's gone for Hasty. That one's I couldn't see that one. Then he went with this one. Joe Linton getting a bit of stick this week, actually. And this one is Steve Hasty. Roy Cropper from Coronation Street.
I thought you looked more like Haley.
It's a brilliant one, that. This is the problem by all these decades of photos of Steve Hasty on the internet. Albert, lookalike Lurch and Phil Jones. That was pretty good. I like that one. And then he went, and so much for his Steve Hasty free zone. He then compares it to John Pertwee.
Yeah. That looks like from London last week with me and Joe, is it?
It was you and Joe. Yeah. We had this one from St. Maximum Goals. Mitch says Steve Hasty been getting some ribbon from lookalike. So I'll just have some pride in who this is. Steve Wraith. Is it Granville? Not in looks, but experience. I'm not sure that is that supposed to be Mitch.
Probably, because I've had it before.
That's got a it's got a likeness of you, and then he goes and puts this up. Poor old Steve Hasty on internet freeze.
Right.
Do you remember when so everyone says we're going to give Steve Hasty a bit of a break, and then they put that up. I mean that was when you had your internet freeze last week, apparently. I got this one sent in by Mike Y. He says he was watching Mr. Bean's Holiday and I had no idea that Mr. Steve Wraith made an appearance. Good eyes for that. I mean, that is pretty good. We've got this one.
Racially, anyway.
Yeah, facially, from Lee Girdlestone. Farmer Fran, Waterboy, and Steve Bruce. See that one?
Yeah.
This one was from the man with no name. Lookalikey. Simon Jordan and Quasimodo, I think.
It's the Elephant Man, is it?
Is it the Elephant Man? Yeah, but
That's Elephant Man, aye.
Yeah, aye.
Coming down to the best ones now. This one, this is from Moxie Mag. He says, "Lookalikey, absolute spit and double of you from behind, Steve." I then had an internet conversation. I said, "Well, yeah, because it was me." Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And this one, this is me in 20 years, says Toon Barmy. If I look that good in 20 years, I'll be over
Exactly.
Had this one from MHJ. He says, "Just seen the Toon Tipster taking Steve Hasty out for some exercise." That's you and Joe. Brilliant. When Joe gets on, I'm sure he'll give us his opinion about that. This is from Dr. Squat Pump. Granny Smith, more like Steve Bruce.
I can see that.
That one was good. This one was for Del Boy. Says, "Looks like Ben Jacobs with man's facial hair," after the Nick DeMarco portrait of Zakarian on paper.
It does mind that I can see that as well.
Yeah. People are really going in depth with some of this. It's like scientific. It's like scientific, isn't it? James Douglas says, "Lookalike contestant." I can see that one as well. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good. Coming down to the last couple now, and
you see them specs at class, mate. You must have seen You must see Helios coming through them.
I found them in the cupboard.
I bet they never made them in an hour, son.
No.
Now here's the last one.
Come on for a laugh.
This is the last one. Mitch. That was from Paul Wanderless. He says, "This is Mitch. It's some kind of weird-looking doll in his kegs." So I think it's probably a reference to when Mitch.
It's a budgie smuggler's reference, yes.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a reference.
And the winners.
Keep it. Well, that's it. Yeah, I think that's the winner. I like that one. It was a bit different, a bit original. But keep them coming in. Send them to me and the lads over the next week, and we'll try and get you on the show next week. And speaking of the man who usually just comes on pre-records, I suppose we better bring him in. Hi Joe, how are you, son? Where is he? There he is.
Hey, evening, lads.
Hey. Good to see you, man. And
all right.
Obviously getting a bit of a cult following now because people are now sending in lookalikes of you.
I'm over the moon. I've been waiting years to get a decent looking bird on my arm.
Hey! See, that was off the cuff. Well done, mate. Well done. Good stuff. Good to have you on, mate. We'll let you get your bets and stuff out the way now, if you've got any, because obviously it's a bit of a dead part of the season at the minute. Have you got anything for us before?
I'm just a bit confused at the moment. I'm a bit confused because I'm talking to you live, but I'm still on a pre-record. I haven't got a clue whether I'm playing, dropped, sub-bench, transfer listed. I might as well pretend I'm Pooley and get a move back to France.
I wonder why you had sub down there.
Treat it as a friendly. That's the best way.
Well, it would if Patterson wasn't here, it would be Steve. I haven't been this confused since I tried to get on Newcastle's website last week to sort my season tickets out. Anyway.
If he was treating as a friendly, Steve, it would be down his A try list.
Yeah. I've been feeling a bit flat this week, to be honest, lads. Last week, I was absolutely on cloud nine. We were in touching distance of the promised land. This week, I've been absolutely devastated by yet more delays. Mind you, I'm no stranger to delays. It's took me 18 months to get live on here, and I'm still talking to you from the past. On the theme of delays, have you ever tried to order out from Q-Tech? Bloody hell. Robert Lee was still playing for us when I ordered this. Get well soon, John. I'm missing you, mate. I just thought I'd give you a bit of an update as to the Premier League prices in general. Last week, I depressed myself talking about the prices for Newcastle. So I just thought it's important that I let you all know where the early money is going. You won't be surprised that Richard Masters probably put this list together because the favourites are the state-owned, Keith, Manchester City at 4-6. My favourites this season are Chelsea at a tempting 5-1. The Liverpool Red Stripes were quite disappointing last season. They're there at 5-1 as well. Spend what you like, despite being billions in debt and nobody cares. Man United, they're 8-1. And them two London clubs who play in stadiums that they can't afford, they're at 40 and 50-1.
Yeah.
Leicester are the only team that get anywhere near this cartel. Big six. I think I've got Tourette's, Keith. And Rafa's Toffees are the only team that's anywhere near that at 100-1. According to the book, you can forget the rest. I like the look of a Chelsea, Man City, Man United top three at 18-1. Here we go, relegation. This is quite interesting. Norwich are the favourites at 5-6 to go straight back. Watford are evens. Brentford are 11-10. They're then followed by Patrick Vieira's Crystal Palace, which I was quite surprised about. Burnley after that, and then some side called Newcastle in at 11-4, but they won't go down, will the lads? If you fancy Leeds United to suffer from the dreaded second season syndrome, they're 9-1. I can't see it, but I just thought it was interesting. Apart from the top six, who obviously Masters will just put in whatever order he wants, Everton and West Ham are well fancied to break in and qualify for the UEFA Cup. In terms of top scorers, Harry Kane's there at 3-10, but that'll plummet if he gets his big move. Mo Salah wasn't as effective last season, but he's there at 7-2. Timo Werner for Chelsea, 14-1. Gabriel Jesus of Man City, 16-1. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin of Everton at 20-1.
What's Joe Linton?
Joe Linton was 150, Keith.
All right, champion, mate.
Passes your bank details. I'll put it on for you. Anyway, I'm off now to watch more reruns of Ben on the other podcast from last night. I've watched it 6 times and I still can't work out what the Scouser and the Irish fella are talking about. I was going to go on live, but only traitors would do that, Steve Wraith. Wouldn't they, Mr. Hasty and Mr. Mitchell? Yeah. Anyway, as I say, get well soon, John from Q-Tech. I hope you get well, mate, and get back with us shortly. And Keith, 5 minutes and we haven't fell out. What about that? I've got nothing but love and admiration for you this week, mate. So honestly, just to let people know, miracles do happen. So let's keep the faith and please bet safely.
Good stuff, mate. As always, look forward to getting you on again next week, mate. Until then, goodbye, mate.
Take care.
Cheers, fella.
See you, mate.
Great to have Joe on as part of the regular team, and keep your lookalikes coming in as well. And if you've got one of the Toon Tipster, why not send it in? Okay, we're going to get on to another one of our regular segments, which is Tweet of the Week certainly becoming a lot more popular than I ever thought it would do. I thought we might only end up with 1 or 2, but we're getting inundated. And obviously we pick up a few ourselves as well along the way. And this is a first one. Tom Dixon's becoming a bit of a regular on this show now.
20 degrees here today. I'm sweating like a Sunderland fan with a 4-piece jigsaw.
Tom, that was an absolute belter, that son. Really, really good. Absolutely superb. I picked up this one from the Out of Context Human Race. I figured out that you don't actually have to assemble these things. So you can see there's an IKEA set of drawers still in the box, and the guy's just put his lamp and his clock on the top and his bedside. That if that hasn't got Steve Wraith written all over it, I don't know what has. Now, we sometimes end up with some things which could end up in lookalikes, and this was noticed in last week's show. And this is by Wayne Bennett. When questioned to Steve Wraith, Geordie Dentist, and NCSL Keith, and an old Etonian, are they in the same room or playing upstairs, downstairs? So he posted that, which I thought was quite funny. He then sends this. He says this is a lookalike, and he was more or less saying that I'm looking like a legal eagle.
Smog.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. Yeah, look, I can see the resemblance. That was more for the fact that we were all at it, because he then says, "You're all bloody at it. Long week, boys." He was making out that we're all asleep.
I was typing.
Well, exactly. You were typing. I think I'd made reference to that because I think somebody in the chat had said, "Is Keith asleep?" So I was typing. Yeah, very good. All right, Steve, you made it into your own segment.
Dear me, never in the world. This was just something that just came at us. Dementors, obviously the Harry Potter theme, feed on human happiness and thus generate feelings of depression and despair in any person close proximity to them. Steve Bruce is an NUFC Dementor, and you know what? That's how I felt. And somebody sent it in as a
tweet. They did, yeah, brilliant, which was great. Now this one should have been in last week, so apologies to Pete Davey, who obviously is part of our worldwide squad. But he did say, I'm surprised that I hadn't appeared on Tweet of the Week. Well, there you go, Pete, you're on this week.
Yep. In a year of social media where it seems popularity and followers are more important than NUFC, it was refreshing to see genuine fans doing what they feel is right for our great club. The amazing work of Protest NUFC team should be praised greatly. Peaceful and powerful. Yeah, you know what? Absolutely spot on, Pete. Absolutely spot on. It was a great trip down to London. It was very well received by all the authorities there. You know, the feedback we got was that it was done in the right way. Naturally, we have our, the people who went had their detractors. People, because that's the nature of being a Newcastle supporter. You have to be in one camp or another. You can't work it. You can't work the room as a Newcastle fan anymore. It just seems to be an impossible thing to do. But naturally, the usual suspects, the same people who you expected to step up and criticise, did. But no, I think absolutely right. And the lads who organised it deserve all the praise and credit that needs to come their way, quite frankly.
Yeah, got a few more to get through. Well, I have this one, which somebody said was a great tweet by TalkSport. Was obviously from my run-in with Simon Jordan, which when it comes to Newcastle, you're absolutely clueless. You come on to get bites. So thank you very much for nominating me. Much appreciated. This one was, lads, I know Twitter is a mess, but honestly, stick to NUF's Twitter. It's glorious. It helps that they have Steve Wraith. He's a throbber that gets it. Now, that could have been Troll of the Week, but it wasn't as harsh as the one that has been selected this week. But what I found interesting about that was that somebody actually sent me was that it just shows you that a lot of the trolls, Steve, actually aren't Newcastle fans. They're actually somebody, maybe who supports a different football club, but who is actually winding other fans up to have a pop at us, which is bizarre. But I did put that one up there just so people can actually see what goes on in the bizarre world of Twitter. Found that really fascinating. So thank you to the person who sent me that this week. I found it very interesting. This was from Ian Hannon. Good to see you down at Rotherham, mate, and I know you're down at Burton tonight, so I will see you tonight, no doubt, on the away end. He says, Steve Wraith, the Trolls have named a bus stop after you now. They are showing you far too much love. And on the side of the bus stop there, it says, Baldy Fucker. It's obviously some kind of place in Germany, or wherever that was.
Austria,
there we go. That was very good. This was great from Scarred for Life. I put a photograph up of me, my dad, and a few of the old boys who were out and about in Gosforth at the weekend, and he went, nice to see Shawadi Wadi for me. I haven't passed that on to me dad yet.
No.
This one was good, Steve.
Yes, this is from Lee C. The atmosphere at St James's Park next season will be grim. Crowd made up of families, first-timers, under-16s, podcasters, vloggers, NUFC Twitter accounts from Tipton, and the last remaining remnants from the good times. I'd literally rather go to work. I think it'll be full of different people to that, to be perfectly honest. But I know I appreciate where he's coming from.
Yeah, me too. This one was from Paul Oxley.
Yes, Paul said, so we've had in-the-know accounts knowing everything about takeovers and player signings. Also the plane and helicopter spotters. Now we have the bloody season ticket counters. Get a bloody grip. It's pathetic, man. And yes, we're now counting down the seats. I think people sit there now, don't they? Put the picture up, and then they're counting how many little dots are left on the season ticket page. I just find it bizarre. I really do. I don't know about you guys. It's something I've always found bizarre. This we've got more season ticket holders than you. Carry on. It's just weird. It's weird.
Absolutely bizarre. This one was good, Kev. Fire and Skill. He's always good for a laugh. A vodka and coke after tea. Now better. And there's his dog with his shades on and his vodka and coke sitting on his favourite chair.
Love it.
Very
nice
good, that one.
Yeah.
Thought this was brilliant as well. Footy accumulators. Name the most overrated player in the Premier League. Ian Atkinson says, at 40 million, I'd still say Joe Linton has a point to prove. Diary of a Disturbed Mind says, I'd rather have Joe Linton than Rashford. So it's all about opinions. This one, again, Tom Lynch making 2 appearances on the show tonight. He was on fire this week. He goes, anti-Premier League song. Ain't no doubt it's plain to see. The Premier League's crooked as can be. I don't know how to link in the he's lying, though, but he was busy writing a song this week with regard, just for fans to sing on the terraces. We did end up with a couple of good suggestions. And we do have 2 more left. This was me posting the photo of me, Keith, and Liam on the way down to Rotherham. Mitch chips in; he's made it in as well. Why does this look like a promo for the start of a Channel 5 documentary? To which Gary Hasty replies, "Phil Grant and Billy Mitchell's Day Out."
No relation, by the way. No relation.
No relation.
Not that I'm aware of, anyway.
No relation at all. The winner of our tweet of the week this week is this one, and it's from Lee Johnson.
Yes, Lee, this is a classic, isn't it? You've got Lee Ryder. Newcastle United could be able to inject another £54,000 per week back into the wage bill if this deal gets done. Chronicle. Obviously, an article that Lee's written. This is the exciting content that I'm here for.
Unbelievable. Brilliant stuff, Lee. Lee is a regular contributor to the satirical version of NUS Twitter, I would say. Yes. But as always, keep them coming in. Send them to me, Steve, Mitch, or to Keith. That is your tweet of the week this week. Also, a big shout out to Joshua Kerridge, who met me and Liam after the match. He said he had the pleasure of meeting me and Liam, and maybe even got myself on the podcast. We're always looking for people to come on the 5-minute rant at the start of the season. So, Joshua, 100% mate, we will get you on, and I will be in touch with you in due course once the season starts. So, look forward to that. Okay, we've got about half an hour left on the show. I guess we can finish off really on the football side of things, lads, and maybe start looking ahead to the season and seeing what you think's in store. We've already talked about the lack of incomings. We've talked about the bad pre-season form. We've talked about the takeover. Essentially nowhere near completion. What are you really expecting, Keith, from season 21-22? Are you expecting anything at all? Or are you just going to be hopeful for staying up? What's your views? If you had to get your crystal ball out, where would you see Newcastle United in May 2022?
Because I don't want to think about it after last year's escape. I don't want to think about relegation. And there's nothing to say that we're not going to make some signings. So I don't want to start feeling negative about things. What I saw at Rotherham was a team that won't do anything with Crystal Palace. You know that, and people can say, look, friendlies don't mean anything, but we just. I was thinking, like, go and get Graham Jones back quick, go and get Almiron, go and get all the ammunition you can, and let's make a plan. What I expect, I can't imagine that the club are going to come this far and spend what they have spent on the legals, however the money where it come from. I can't imagine they're just going to go in with Bruce. I've seen rumours this week that John Terry has been named as being a potential manager. So apparently he's left Crystal Palace to become a manager, and Frank McAvenny says he'll make the perfect manager for Newcastle. We can't. I can't imagine we're going to. I'm going to make a number tonight. I can't imagine we'll get through 12 games with Steve Bruce unless something changes. I just don't see how that can happen. And I think what happens is when you go through games, you start to lose somebody and you start to get rid of somebody, then someone comes in and you've got to start reconvening. It worries us greatly. I think Joe Linton will end up playing deeper in midfield. I think Murphy will have a better season. If we get this kid from Man United, he's got pace, which our centre halves lack. And you know, if Jones gets more of a say on tactics, because until Jones came in, we were setting up clueless. But the one thing you haven't mentioned in that way is you've got to put Shelby and Hendrick in that midfield. We talk about it's all about midfield. I'm like Liam. I've got a soft spot for Sean Longstaff because I think he has got something. I think he's got an eye for a goal as well. But I think Shelby will play every week, and I'm faithful. Shelby playing every week. Put 2 injuries to the wrong players, and we deep in the shit. Sorry, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, no need to apologise, mate. It's all about opinions. It's the way most of us feel, I think. I do believe you're right. I think if Shelby's still at the club, he'll be playing as long as he's fit. So I can't see anything other than that for me. Mitch, what about you?
It's difficult going into the season devoid of hope, and I think that's what we are at the moment. I can't see how we've made any improvement or any progress. The next 4 weeks are probably some of the most critical for the club in many different ways. Many different ways. In terms of who can we secure? In terms of incomings, can we get work back in? Although what I'm being told is that's all positive and all that's hanging on for is 2 things. One, to decide whether it's a loan or a permanent, and one, it'll be done at the start of the following month for fiscal stroke accounting reasons, which would be a very typical balance sheet champion move of Newcastle United to do. But let's see. I can't see, on the basis of what I've heard, and I caught a little bit of the York friendly because that was on YouTube. Don't read too much into that one as the opening one, but when I hear what I'm hearing about the performances in the following ones, that there's no progress, that there's no sign of any coherent system or way of playing, that there seems to be a disjoint between the bench and the players on the pitch. They're all really worrying things going into a season. And I think you're right. I think the game against Norwich could be an interesting turning point. Is that going to be our next Leyton Orient, I wonder? You just don't know. There's got to come to a point, though, where sometimes the players take it in their own hands, like that group of players did at Leyton Orient. And have we got enough characters in the dressing room who are strong enough to turn around and say, right, this is up to us because we're getting no help from above and we're getting no help from alongside. It's really, really difficult looking at a season with such degree of hopelessness. And like you say, as a fan base, the football's got to be what we've got to concentrate on because that's the only measure of what's going on that we'll have that's tangible. And the worrying things about me, because we all four have been in that poisonous, bilious atmosphere in St James's Park that Steve mentioned earlier. because if that returns, that's such a toxic place to play. But then again, would I blame it? Because we've, as a fan base, have been getting blamed for stuff we've had no say or input into, and no ability to have any say or input into on the pitch. This is the first time proper that crowds will return, and the man at the helm is where the bullets are going to be aimed. And I think I see nothing feeding back from you guys who've actually been to some of the friendlies and speaking to mates who've been there to feel positive about in terms of on the pitch at all. And we've got a squad now that is probably 2 injuries away from being disastrous. And that's not a situation that's tolerable in my opinion.
Steve Hasty?
Oh, you know what? It's so difficult. I'm sitting here thinking, right, well, what my expectation over the close season would be that Bruce would have taken a long, hard look at his squad. He would have taken a long, hard look at what went on the previous season, the tactics that he played, the manner in which those tactics played out on the pitch, the poor performances, the good performances. And he would have sat with his coaching squad and they would have come up with some sort of formulated plan that he would then have started to put into practice during the close season. Yes, I appreciate that close season, pre-season friendlies are very much into the getting the players fit, getting your match fit, getting you used to playing, 11 against 11 when it's not 11 of your teammates in a training situation. You're getting used to travelling. Obviously, they haven't been travelling too far, but certainly the York game came straight after a week down at a training camp. So I would have been expecting all of that professionalism to start to bear fruit during these games. Would have seen a semblance of a formation, would have seen a semblance of players playing in key positions. And that would have given us the idea of where we're heading when we go into the start of the season in what is a fortnight's time. What I'm picking up is that they've just all been on holiday. The coaching staff have been on holiday. Jones hasn't been around. Jones is now on an extended leave because he's been involved with England. And the other three, it would appear, have never, ever held a conversation until they are all arrived back. You know, it's like it's giving you the impression of like what it was like when you go to school and you all go away for the 6 weeks and then you come back and it's like, you know, there's a new kid in class, if you're lucky, there's most of the lads have come back. You've got a couple of new teachers that you need to get to know, but ostensibly you're straight in because you've got exams to come and you've got to get back into the fold. And to me it doesn't even, I can't even visualize that kind of professionalism that's coming to bear fruit. I just find it just devoid of anything. What little we've seen of Bruce in the media hasn't lent me to believe that he's in control, that he has a semblance of a plan. His conversations are all over the place. He's contradicting one game to the next. The lineups are just not there. And is that him? Is it me? I don't know. I'm hoping it's me. I'm hoping it's not Steve Bruce. I'm hoping it's not the club. I'm hoping that there is something special going on up there, that there are plans afoot that that give you an idea or give them an idea, and certainly the players an idea of what formation they're going to be playing, what tempo they're going to be playing. Because again, the tempo, you know, we actually heard him come out and said in one of the games, I think it was the midweek game, where he said the tempo wasn't there. We didn't step up. We didn't move. You know, there was no transitional play. There was no semblance. It looked like 11 lads thrown in. And then another group of lads come in the second half, and then there's a few more changes. And as though they'd all forgotten that they were playing a team that in some instances is 3 or 4 divisions below them. You know,
Steve, how bad did we look against lower league opposition last year? Think of the League Cup, you know, and the season before in the FA Cup.
Yep.
When we had plum draws against teams from lower divisions and we squeaked through on penalties or last minute extra time winners, or in the case of Brentford, lost to their reserves. You know, and that seems to be a recurring theme, that we can't step it up against lower league opposition. Now, is that a mentality thing? Is that
a total lack of motivation on behalf of the players and the coaching squad? You can't motivate yourself. And if you as a manager on £2 million a year cannot motivate a bunch of professional footballers who are crying out to be coached, then there's something sadly wrong. There's something sadly lacking in the ability of the coaching staff and the manager.
Yeah, and again, he's got history of when it does go wrong. Like, for example, against Wolves, when he brought Murphy on and we conceded a goal almost straight away, and he tried to blame it on the players.
Yeah.
Because he didn't get the instructions across. Well, I beg your pardon. You get the instructions across. You do.
Yeah, I think there's another key point of this as well, Mitch and Steve, and that is this is the start of his 3rd season with this squad. His 3rd season as manager at Newcastle. I'm not seeing anything that tells me that this team and this club is any better than it was in his 1st season when he got the benefit of the doubt, or his 2nd season. We know that he has little runs, but we know that, similar to Pardew, when he goes on a bad run, the bad run turns into a shocking run. The points just never, ever come. And it's a treadmill that he cannot get you off. And even his body language doesn't give anybody any confidence in believing that there's something that can happen at that football club, that he can do something on the pitch. We're talking about footballers on £35,000-40,000 a week, and probably in some instances more. You know, we're talking about a manager on big money. We're talking about coaching staff, vastly experienced, all ex-professional footballers, all being steeped in the game for years and years, and they cannot motivate themselves even. I see nothing on the throughout the entire season from Steve Agnew, or Stephen Clements, or Steve Bruce that give me any indication that they knew what they were doing. And this has been for 2 seasons now, and I'm now going into the 3rd season with these same people in charge on the pitch, trying to pull together some sort of formation, some sort of plan. It's not that long ago where he said he was going to do it his way. And I still don't know what his way is. And I don't think the players know what his way is. And I don't think he knows what his way is.
It's pressing the great randomizer button, isn't it? That's his way. What can we do today? Well, I don't know. Let's spin the wheel of fortune, which has all the players in all the positions on, and see what lands. Yeah. That's what it is.
And I think that's.
And there'll still be idiots in the press, you know, Rafa this and Rafa that, and trying to make comparisons. This is very much Bruce's team, Bruce's squad now, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
War betide us as a fan base if we are ever above Everton in the league table at any point in the season. Jesus.
The only people mentioning Rafa now are the people who, weren't Rafa fans. I really do find that bizarre.
Yeah, and they cling on to it now, and it's ridiculous. I mean, we've kept seeing on here all the way through. No matter what Bruce says, we know what we're watching, and we know what we're seeing in front of our own eyes. We're not stupid, and he's treated like we've been stupid pretty much for most of his tenure. I just did like you just pointed out, Steve, the quote about the tempo not being there, but what you've been working on for the last 3 weeks. knitting courses. I mean,
yeah, we started off slow and we got slower. Was the quote? I think. I mean, well, that's your
fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, how many get out of jail cards has he got in his pack? That's what I want to know, because he seems to pull them out at will. You know, it just bamboozles me. It bamboozles me that the people at the top of the club cannot see it. It bamboozles. Well, it shouldn't really. I'm saying that, but it shouldn't. It shouldn't bamboozle us, because we know what the contempt that they've treated fans and still do. So
he's up there with Pardew with his list of big bag of excuses as well. You know, he's on the same level as the grass is too long and the crowd got too excited. You know, it's bullshit like that just really winds us up as well, because it's like, well, no, we know what we're saying, we know what's going on.
Exactly.
We can see the inadequacies, and there's times players have dug them out, and certainly the present between Jones, Wilson, and ASM coming back from injury at just the right time, and Willock dug him out of a massive hole last season. And are the stars going to align so nicely forward again? Doubt it.
And in some instances, he didn't even play Willock. You think of Liverpool, where he kept them on the bench, and then we managed to score and get that equaliser in something like the 93rd or 92nd minute. You know, he only brought him on with 5 minutes to go to shore it up. It was to save a 1-0, to save a 1-0 defeat. You know, he wanted him on to give him with a little bit of pace, so that if they did break away and get that second goal, which always looked likely. But there were other games where he didn't play him, and then the lad comes on and the lad scores. You know, but there's something about him that he obviously felt as though, you know, when you've got a player of Willock's ability, and yet he still didn't want to play him. You know, and you'd rather play Shelvey. You know, that's what, you know, the whole demeanor, the whole, you know, if you want to follow a football club that's got ambition, or you want to see some ambition on the pitch from players and from a manager, don't go to Newcastle. Don't go and watch Newcastle play, because that's not what you'll see. You know, that's not what you're getting. We're on this treadmill of mediocrity that is one of those treadmills that you don't want to get faster and faster, but you know that mediocrity word is speeding it up and speeding up continuously.
But you look at the Conor Gallagher situation. He's gone to Crystal Palace in preference to us.
Yeah.
What would drag him away? He's already London based. He doesn't have to move anywhere, and he can stay within the vicinity where he's comfy and go to a Premier League team, and he'll get some game time. Or do you want to come north? And probably the club, ironically, is probably still a draw for some people. But then you look at, well, what am I going to get out of going there with Steve Bruce in this shambles? And the answer is absolutely nothing. So why would he come here? Why would he want to shift himself out of London?
The draw is to play with a manager who's just stepped in, who's been given some money to spend, some big ideas, and he feels as though, as a midfielder, he can learn an awful lot from Patrick Vieira. Yeah. Now, you know, Vieira as a manager might not be a success, but Vieira as a midfield player or an ex-midfield player, bringing a young lad like Gallagher in, Gallagher can learn from just being around the likes of a Patrick Vieira, who can coach him and bring something to his game. I couldn't see Steve Bruce bringing something to Joe Willock's game, to be perfectly honest. That baffles to deceive me that would be. I think the only reason we'll get Joe Willock is if the lad just enjoyed himself so much here and realizes that he's not going to get a look in at Arsenal, and so he's taking a punt, and that punt will be that, you know what, if he has a good season at Newcastle, his stock will rise even further, and even if Arsenal don't want him, somebody else will, and whether it's a big move to Germany or somewhere like that, because he's of that age where you can see the likes of a Dortmund or somebody like that picking him up, or a Bayern Munich, because that would suit the lad down to the ground. That's the sort of situation we're in. And I agree with you, Mitch. I feel as though if this deal is going to happen with Willock, that it'll happen at the start of next week when we're into August. We're out of July, and it's like, you know what? It's an accounting situation. We don't have to pay him. There's probably something in players' contracts that says if you move during the middle of a month, that the new people have got to pay for your salary all the way from that month. And we're probably penny pinching.
100%.
Wouldn't surprise me.
That is 100% that. There's no doubt about that. It'll be an old trick, but lads, been great. Almost like the old days there, the three amigos.
Just a quickie, Steve. Just a quickie. I spoke to John earlier. We'll make an announcement on the pool night in the next 24 hours on whether we have to push it back. So as people are watching the show tonight, we'll put something out and they'll see what's going to happen. We want John to be there. John's an integral part of everything that we've done. John wants to be there. It's just a case of, at the moment, I don't think he's fit enough to be out and about yet. And he's going to be in a period of recuperation anyway. So we'll make a decision, and nothing will happen. It'll just be a case of everything moving on. Everybody who continues, if we do have to postpone, everything that's continuing with the virtual bucket will carry on. It gives you more opportunities to be in with a prize of the watch, etc. But watch this space, as I say. We'll watch NUFC Matters Twitter account, and people will be able to follow it on there, and we'll get that. We'll have that decision made as soon as we can.
Yeah, we'll have news on the Christmas do as well, because obviously we want that to go ahead, hopefully prior to Christmas. Really, Lee Clark might have a job very soon, which means he might not be back. So we might have to get another player to come in. Probably going to go along the Supermac route. So
we could get Bobby to come in.
We could do. Could get Super. Yeah, but we'll see what happens. We will be making an announcement on that one soon as well. So watch this space. Steve, I just wanted to give a quick plug to this as well. Zara's been in touch. They've got a couple of screenings on in Hexham. So if you want to go along and see the wonderful film We Are the Geordies, which of course we were involved with, get yourself along to the forum in Hexham. You can buy tickets from www.forumhexham.com. That's www.forumhexham.com. Go and see We Are the Geordies in all its glory on the big screen,
and also all its sound as well, Steve. And 5.1 surround sound, all of that. You're gonna a totally different experience just on the big screen and on the sound compared to what it was on your DVD, whether if you already watched it on DVD or you were part of the watch party. But it'll Zora's doing a couple of these over the next few weeks, and that's the first one next week in Hexham. Going to try and get along, support it, and savor the atmosphere of a big crowd that's not hostile. A crowd and games that we can remember, and especially that absolutely fantastic finale that the film brings.
Yeah, you won't be disappointed, and neither will Julie. Oh, there's some nasty buggers out there. It was my anniversary this week. 18 years married, and had a cracking night away. Steve's as well, slightly longer for Steve, but we'll not go into that. Steve, don't want to embarrass you. It's bad enough for your two lookalikes without this.
Let's just say it's double yours, Steve.
Wow. Well done, though. Congratulations, mate. I'm sure you had a good time. A couple of potential trolls this week, and interesting to see that some of these trolls actually are actually running more than one account. But that really is just down to the fact that when you look at the stuff that they post up, they're actually coming from the same IP address. But this one, first of all, The Truth was helping me celebrate my anniversary. He says, you might have been married for 18 years, but you've been bashing her on and off for 12 years at least. And then he hashtags domestic violence, domestic abuse, of course. absolute load of bullshit. But doesn't stop these people liking, putting stuff out there. And why on earth Sky News would be interested in that, I've got no idea. But that was a close contender, sharply followed by this guy, Toon Black and White Army, who has certainly been having a right pop this week. 13 following and no followers, and no the bloody wonder. He basically decided to chip in with a load of abuse this week, and I haven't got the tweet actually, but more or less said that he was going to come along to my office with a camera and interview me and get the facts. I'm not sure what facts he wanted to get. But the fact that I've done probably more media interviews than I care to remember over the last 30 years, bring it on, mate. I will see you outside the office whenever you fancy it. Take care, folks. Yeah, it's a weird world, guys. Weird world. Got some great stuff coming up on the channel anyway. I have been uploading a few documentaries. Great one about P Company, which I know a lot of people missed when I took it down, about paratroopers. It's a Channel 4 documentary. I've stuck that back up for people, which I'm sure you will enjoy. And a bit of true crime stuff is up there as well this week. I've also interviewed Kelly Maloney about boxing, the state of boxing after COVID, and about some of the fantastic fights that she was involved in and some of the wonderful fighters that she promoted back in the day. That goes up on Sunday, so look forward to that. And I'm live with Mick Lowes on Saturday, 11 o'clock Saturday morning. Mick will be looking at the pre-season friendly results and looking ahead to the new season. And as always, back next week with all the usual stuff, including the Fab Four, which will be live next Friday. Mitch, I hope that hasn't been too hard for you tonight, mate.
Nah, sorry, mate.
Get your influenza.
Always happy to help out, you know that.
Good stuff. And, let's hope Keith Patterson's phone call was an interesting one. I'm sure we'll find out about that next week. Big shout out to Toon Tipster Joe for his input as well. We will see you all live next Friday at 5:30. Until then, take care, lads. Bye-bye.
Good night.
See you.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn your life.